This person's name is Hossein Nayeri. He was born in Tehran in 1980, but when he was 13 years old, he immigrated to the United States with his family. The Nair family settled in the city of Fresno, California, and Hussein went to school and grew up there. Hussein was not a good kid at all. He was always having problems, fighting, hitting his classmates, and causing trouble at school. He played sports and was a good wrestler, but he didn't care about classes at all, and his grades were always low. Finally, after a few years of ups and downs, he got his diploma with Napoleonic grades. One of America's elite forces is the United States Marine Corps. They don't let just anyone in here like the regular army, because the entrance exam is very difficult and you need to have a fit and strong body. Hossein Nayeri joined the army because he was an athlete and wrestler, but he was not a disciplined person in the army either. Somewhere tougher than military discipline, but Nayeri didn't care at all and was all about love and his own well-being, especially marijuana use. The Marine Corps, who are not joking, see that this is not someone who should move forward according to the regulations, so they are firing him. Hussein is no longer staying in Fresno. He packs his things and heads to Southern California, to the city of Newport Beach. He goes to this city to look for a job, rent a room, and try to do something to make money. Years pass and he somehow gets stuck, spending whatever money he makes, and he realizes he can't get rich like this. At the age of 24, Hussein met an Armenian-American girl named Courtney Shagarian. Shagarian is 16 years old at this time, but in order not to lose Hussein, she doesn't say, "I'm 16, because you should know that in America, anyone under 18 is considered a child. And if someone has a relationship with someone under 18, they are considered a pedophile and will be treated badly." The two become friends, and Courtney finally turns 18. When Courtney turns 18, she decides to show Hussein to her parents, because she was 18 years old and had her own choice. Cardani's parents don't like Hussein very much when they see him and tell their daughter that he doesn't seem like a good person, and number proth, you should break up with him. She tells her parents that it's okay to break up with him. On the surface, she break up with him, but her relationship with Hussein remains. She tells her parents that it's okay to break up with him. On the surface, she break up with him, but her relationship with Hussein remains. Basically, he's producing illegal marijuana and selling it on the streets. He's finally making enough money from it. Even though he's doing something illegal, he won't get caught. In 2004, the California state government passed a law that allowed people to legally obtain marijuana with a doctor's prescription. Basically, the doctor says this person has back pain, for example, and gives them a card that allows them to legally buy and use marijuana. Hossein Nayeri goes to talk to a doctor and says, for example, "My knee hurts," and he gets a fake card here. This card allows this guy to do his job easily because if he had marijuana with him, he would say, "I have a card." He was freely distributing his marijuana, and years passed like this. Hussein and his girlfriend are still together. During this time, Hussein is distributing a lot of marijuana and is making good money. He was getting it from a marijuana dealer named Michael, a person who neither identified himself nor gave his last name. We'll find out why later. When we get to 2012, one of Hussein's colleagues, his accomplices, says to him, "Do you know how much money this Michael has?" Through this marijuana trade, he has hidden $1 million in cash in the deserts of East Los Angeles. Hussein says, "You're right." He says, "Yes, I know." Hussein said, "So we need to find out where this money is." So he went and bought a sophisticated GPS that sticks to the bottom of the car like a magnet. It's not cheap either, because this live GPS on the computer shows where this car is going. He also installs 2 hidden cameras in front of Michael's house to find out what time Michael goes out and what time he returns home. Nayeri has been following and monitoring Michael for months. Michael would go to the Mojave Desert several times a month, but he would never stop in one place. He would stop in different places and then return, so Hussein couldn't figure out where this hiding place was. Hussein is getting tired, so when we get to October 2012, he decides to get this money from him in a different way. He goes to Michael's house, and when he comes out, he takes him out and throws him in a van. and he pack him in the van and drive him to the Mojave Desert. On the way, he keeps telling Michael where the $1 million are. Hurry up and talk. He says, "Hey, what are you talking about? Where did I get $1 million?" The truth was that Nayeri accomplice had lied to him and had made something up. Since there was no money involved, why would Michael come to this desert? Because he was delivering drugs in this desert, he would stop at a certain place in this desert every time. But Hossein doesn't believe anything at all except telling where the money is. Hossein sees that whatever he says something else. So he goes to the desert, stands in a corner, and starts beating Michael in the back of the van. And he says, "Tell me where the money is." He says again, "I don't have money to tell you." He takes out a torch from under the seat of his car. Torch is a small gas canister with a head. He lights it and sticks it to Michael's body. He burns 10 places on this poor man's body, and he screams and begs, saying, "I don't have any money to give you." He turns to Michael and says, "This is the end of the line. If you don't tell me where the money is, I'll do something bad to you." He pulls out the knife and walks towards Michael, who is tied up. He takes Michael's penis and throw him out of the van, and he goes from there. Then Hossein feels extremely sorry and says, "What a terrible thing I did." He says if he had money, he would have given it to me, but he doesn't have any money, and the police will definitely come after me. I have to run away. He immediately goes and buys a plane ticket to Tehran. He quickly boards a plane and arrives in Iran. His girlfriend, Courtney, is still in America. What happened to Michael? He drags himself to the edge of the road, and luckily a car passes by. He picks him up and quickly takes him to the hospital. And that's what keeps Michael alive and the police chasing Hossein. But he had reached Tehran, and the police couldn't catch him. So they went to Hussein's girlfriend and said, "Maybe this has some good information." You should know that Courtney had studied and was already a lawyer. So she tricked the cops, and they didn't get any specific information. The cops aren't fools, so they get a search warrant for Courtney's house. Hussein's computer is found in Courtney's house. The police find out that a GPS was installed under Michael's car, and there are 2 cameras installed in front of his house. And when they find this computer in Courtney's house, Courtney is arrested as an accomplice. Courtney says, "What does it have to do with me?" They tell her, "You're an accomplice." They tell her if she wants to prove her innocence, call Hossein and get him out of Iran. Not to bring him to America, just take him out of Iran and into another country so we can arrest him. Courtney tries her best. She calls Hossein and says, "I lived with you for years. You suddenly left me and left. At least let's meet in another country." Finally, after days of talking to Hossein, she manages to force Hossein to come to Spain to see each other. Courtney didn't move from America, but the U.S. police have already contacted European countries to arrest this person if he arrives at any airport. Hossein first arrives at Prague Airport in the Czech Republic and is arrested there. They are keeping Hossein in the prisons of the Czech Republic for a year until all the paperwork is done before he can be extradited to the United States. And finally, Hossein is brought to America and handed over to the Santa Ana prison in California. And finally, Hossein is brought to the United States and transferred to the Santa Ana prison in California until his trial. You must have realized by now why Michael's family name is not mentioned, because he himself requested that his name not be mentioned, and that no one see his photo because of the terrible thing that happened to him in the desert. Hossein remains in prison awaiting his trial, but he is putting a plan into action. He teams up with 2 other prisoners, Bak Duong and Jonathan Teo, to escape from prison, and to make a Hollywood escape, an escape that they even filmed themselves. They had cell phones in prison. They would fully charge them before escaping so they could film. In the filming, it doesn't seem like they're doing something so exciting. It's like they're having fun. They're laughing and moving forward happily. These 3 people, led by Hossein Nayeri, are safely out of this prison. When these 3 people are a few kilometers away from the prison, they call the same cell phone they have with them to get a taxi. The taxi that was sent for them had a Vietnamese driver named Langma, an elderly man who just immigrated to America from Vietnam and doesn't speak English very well. The three of them get into Longman's car, grab him and put him in the back seat, and Hossein himself sits behind the wheel. Langma doesn't say anything because he's afraid they'll kill him. Hossein heads to north of California on Highway 1, which runs along the ocean. After a 7 or 8 hour drive, they arrive in the city of Santa Cruz. In Santa Cruz, they see that the views are beautiful. It's not as if they're running away. They stop at beautiful places and take pictures together. Longma, the taxi driver who was taken hostage, is also being told to get out and come take a picture with us. And they took a picture. This is the picture, and poor Langma is smiling too. It's like forcing Langma to smile, because Langma is unlikely to smile in this situation. This laughter of Langma is kind of scary. He smiles, but it's clear that he's full of terror inside. Because Hossein Nayeri has made another decision, he tells the other two that you must kill Langma, because if we release him, he will expose us. But suddenly, one of the escapees, Bak Duong, gets upset and says, "Why should we kill this old man?" He puts Langma in a taxi as soon as possible, and they escape from there. Hossein Nayeri and Jonathan Teo are left without a car, and Hossein steals a van at the first opportunity, and they drive towards San Francisco. Bak Tuang, along with Langma, takes himself straight to Santa Ana prison and says, "I surrender," the same prison he escaped from 24 hours earlier. Luckily, the taxi driver survived. Hossein and Jonathan settle in the van in San Francisco, where they eat and sleep. And they're terrified of being caught, but don't believe it, because in this situation, they're filming themselves too. While the news has spread throughout America, and all of America is looking for Hossein Nayeri and Jonathan Teo, you should know that San Francisco has a lot of homeless people. After 8 days of living in a van, Hossein gets out of the van to go buy something at the store, but suddenly a homeless person recognizes him. And he says he saw his picture in the newspaper today and quickly calls the police and says he saw the person whose picture you put in the newspaper. And the police arrive there very quickly and easily arrest Hossein Nayeri and Jonathan Teo. This time, they won't take Hossein to Santa Ana prison. They'll take him to a maximum security prison, Orange County Security Prison, where escape is almost impossible. After a few months, the trial time comes, and Hossein is sentenced to 4 life sentences for mutilating and torturing Michael. He's in the same security prison in Orange County. We explained before that you might ask again why 4 life sentences. Well, once is enough, but they are sentencing him in such a way that no matter how many pardons he gets, he still can't get out, because if it's a life sentence, he can get 2 pardons, reduce his sentence to 10 years, and get out. But it can never come out like this again. It's like Hossein can't film himself there, because no film has been released. Please support us with subscribe, like, and comments, and thanks for your watching.